Salesforce Lightning Day 1. We are going to start today Lightning Aura and then we will start the LWC. Front door. So today we are going to start the Lightning Aura and then LWC. After that we will talk about the LWC. Now first understand, let's see the today's agenda. So today's agenda is we'll talk about the Salesforce Lightning. What are the different elements we have in the Salesforce Lightning? And then we'll talk about what are the different tools that we can implement the Lightning Aura. And then we'll talk about the UI development, classic development flow, how it is, and Lightning development flow, how it is. And then we'll see the Salesforce Lightning component framework, Lightning application, and Lightning experience. Then we'll talk about the Salesforce Classic versus Salesforce Lightning. And then if time permits, we will go ahead further. Otherwise, we'll talk about only 11 topics we are going to discuss. Now, Salesforce development. Now, for Salesforce development, if I want to implement any developer wants to implement a UI or a business logic. Assume that they got a requirement of UI and the development. When they got the requirement of UI and development in the UI, so they will divide the work between the UI and backend logic. So UI development can be implemented in the visual course, which is nothing but Salesforce Classic, or else we have a Salesforce Lightning, which is nothing but Lightning framework. That is Aura. And other one is Salesforce LWC, which is an open source. Whether you go for a Classic visual course or a Lightning Aura or a LWC, all of them are implemented using the logic in the backend logic is always in the Apex. UI can be the different, but the backend logic will be the same, Apex. So which is used to Apex, the OOPS concept, soccer, saucer, right? So whatever we have it can be implemented here. So Salesforce development is implemented with the UI development and the logic development. Now, in this, here we are talking about the Lightning framework or open source framework or visual force framework. Now, what is the framework? So framework is nothing but collection of multiple technologies. Right? Framework is nothing but a collection of multiple technologies. Collection of technologies. Multiple technologies. So similar like an example, .NET framework. Right? Similarly, we have a visual force framework, Lightning Aura framework, or open source framework. So whether UI could be the UI, you are going with the visual force or Lightning Aura or LWC. We are using the multiple technologies there, like a HTML, JavaScript, libraries, right? We are using the CSS. So we are using the multiple technologies in the each UI. So that's the reason we call it as a framework. So visual force framework, where we are using the multiple technologies, where we have a Salesforce Lightning, which is a Lightning framework, Aura framework, and a Salesforce LWC, which is an open source framework. Now, in this case, like whether you go for a visual force or a Lightning Aura or a Lightning LWC, which are the one you go for it. So we have a backend logic is always in the Apex. So that's the reason development was very important session. So if you do not understand the development, it is very difficult to move on in the Lightning. So that's the reason I was mentioning Lightning. Development has to be completed. Everybody should know that how to write a program in Apex. Salesforce Lightning elements. So there are different elements we have. Lightning Experience, Lightning Component Framework, Lightning Design System, which is nothing but LDS, Lightning Design System. Now, in this case, Lightning Experience. So, Lightning Experience is nothing but where you will go through the modern user interface, like whatever the modern user interface is there, which is a user interact with the Salesforce. Right, what are the users are interacting with the Salesforce using the modern UI, which is called as a Lightning Experience. In this Lightning Experience, so we are using the different UI. So different UI part of a Salesforce Lightning. Now we have a Lightning Experience is nothing but user interface related. Lightning Component Framework is nothing but a component framework, which is nothing but a component framework is nothing but it's a single page application. It's a single page application. In the single page, I have a multiple, in the single page, I can view the multiple information I can view, right? So in the single page, I can see the header, I can see the detail section, and here I have a related list. I can add multiple information, I can add it into the related list, which is nothing but a Lightning Component Framework. Lightning Component Framework. So Lightning Component Framework is development part of a UI. So using this framework, we can implement a logic. The UI framework we can implement it, which is nothing but Lightning Component Framework. Lightning Design System is nothing but, in this Lightning Design Systems are basically it's a CSS, which is also called as a SLDS, LDS or SLDS, Salesforce Lightning Design System. Either it will be called as a LDS or it will be called as a SLDS. This is open CSS, all the predefined CSS. So Salesforce is also providing the predefined, it is providing it. Like if you search Lightning Design System, the Salesforce itself is providing the predefined styles, which you can directly utilize or which you can directly implement within the code. So you have a utilities, UI, border, align, boxes, grid, floats, all these things are available. Right, this is the layout. So layout. So this is the layout, how you want to
book.
So you have it, different layouts we have it. Right. Similarly, the positions, if you want to, how do you want to place the position? Right, do you want to place the position in the fixed or in the absolute or relative? That means based on the screen, it should be displayed. Right. Now, do you want a scrollable? Right. So if you want a text to be displayed as a scrollable, right? If you want this kind of thing, these are the predefined SLDS. So you can use the predefined SLDS, or else if you want your own CSS also, you can use it. So the flexibility is that it is open source. Lightning Design System, whatever you are using it, it's a open source. So these are the three elements which are available in Salesforce: Lightning Experience, Lightning Component, Lightning Design System. Like we know the elements. For example, if I want to implement a Lightning Aura, what are the different tools that I need to use it? What are the different tools that I need to use it? I can use the tool which is called as a developer console. Where we have implemented our Salesforce Apex development, which we have implemented, right? So Salesforce Development, we can use the same developer console, or else can go for Microsoft Visual Studio. So Microsoft Visual Studio is nothing but where you need to install it on-premise. This is on-premise application where you need to install the Microsoft Visual Studio. We will learn this, how to install it. I'll guide you. Don't worry about it, how to install this. Everybody will be doing the, even Apex also start doing the development in the Visual Studio instead of going with the Aura component. Do it from the Visual Studio. So this is the Visual Studio where you have it. Like, how can you see the information? Now we will talk about the Visual Studio later, but this is the Visual Studio where you can start implementing your code, right? Now, there is also third-party exchange applications are there. Third-party applications are available. So you can use third-party applications. Maybe I'll show you later, but not right now. There are few extensions which are available. You can use those extensions also. Right. So mainly Salesforce is suggests to use the lightning for the lightning. Either you go for a Visual Studio. Mostly they will say that use the Visual Studio. And the second one is Developer Console. Let's see the UI development. Now, if you want to implement a UI, let's suppose you have an application which is called as a ADCP bank. Assume that they want to implement an application for the calculator. They want to implement an application for the calculator. And in this application, when they open the application, they have to enter the loan amount details. Loan amount detail. And select the tenure, whether it is a 10K or 20K, whatever is there. And what are the loan interest, they have to enter the loan interest. And once they enter all this information, click on the calculate. Once they click on the calculate button, there is a monthly EMI is going to, output is going to show. So this is the loan amount I'm expecting from the bank, and this is the tenure and interest. What is the interest? Based on that, how much can I pay monthly? That calculator is going to give us the information. Now this application, bank wants us to implement this application, EMI application. So in order to implement this, you have a different option to implement. Either you can go with the classic development, just using the Visualforce UI as a Visualforce and logic is the effect. Second one is a Lightning development. Second one is Lightning development. So first is Lightning development. You can go with Aura. We can go with Aura, and the logic will be either you can implement in the JavaScript or you can implement in the Apex. Now JavaScript, how much logic do I need to write it? Apex, how much logic do I need to write it? It is up to the developer. If the developer is perfect in the JavaScript, they can go with simply with the JavaScript. If the developer is perfect with the Apex, they can go with Apex. But some part which you need to do it in JavaScript, you will be knowing that as you are practicing it. And the third one is which you have a Lightning Web Component, which is nothing but a DOM. Document of, right? So DOM. Now UI is you will be implementing in the HTML and Lightning. Right, logic is a JavaScript or a Apex, you will be going through that. Right, so DOM is document object model. So for this document object model, you will be implementing either you can go with Classic, you will go with Aura, you can go with LWC. So preferred one currently in the market is LWC. Now, if you go down, Lightning, Aura, or a Visualforce, there will be a question that can come up saying that what is the purpose that you have implemented the component in the Visualforce or in the Lightning Aura? Why did not you go for a LWC? So those are the questions will be raised. Now in this scenario, so you can take anything. So let's see the differences between if you go with the Classic, if you go with Lightning. Now if you go with the Classic, now you have a same application. If you go with the Classic, what will happen? You need to implement a logic in the Apex. right? So this is the UI. In the UI, you are implementing this structure. Now, once you implement the structure in the UI, that means whatever the data is entered in the UI, it has to go to the Apex, the input logic. For example, user has entered some 10 crores or some amount the person has entered here, right? So when they enter the amount here, the data has to flow through the Apex, and Apex is going to cross verify the data, capture all the fields, whatever the values are there, first capture everything in the Apex. Now, once it is captured the information in the Apex, then it will send the information. First, it will send it to the database, right? So we are capturing all the information here. It will does all the logic, and then it will send it to the DMS, store this information in one of the field in the database.com. Now database.com is going to store that information, and it is going to send me the details back to the Apex logic. Once it sends the details to the Apex logic, then Salesforce is going to send the information back to the UI saying that this is monthly EMI. So in this case, step 1 is data, capturing the data from UI and passing the data to the logic. Step 2 is logic is verified in the, all the logic is verified in the Apex, and then sending that logic information, that what are the final output is there, the final output we are sending to the database. And step 3 is like once we receive the information from the database, Apex is again going to cross verify and send the information to the UI. So Apex is going to send the information to the UI. So that is a step 3. That is step 3. Now, these are the information we have. Now, Lightning, when we say Lightning development flow, in the Lightning development flow, everything is the same, but in this case, what we have is there are two types of it. Logic can be written in the Apex side. Logic can be implemented in the JavaScript. Now, when the logic is implemented in the Apex, which is nothing but a server-side controller, the logic implemented in the JavaScript, which is called as a client-side controller. The client-side controller. So if it is a server-side controller, the logic directly, whatever the data is there, the data is captured to the Apex and then send the information to the database. From the database, we are going to receive the information. If it is a JavaScript, the input will be captured in the Java. The input, all the input, whatever the user is entered the values, everything will be captured in the Java and send the output to the, click on the calculate button and then it will send the output. So in the first scenario, if you have a server-side logic, first capture the information, right? And send it to the database.com and then it will return back to the output here. If it is a JavaScript, it's an immediate action. Capture it and show me the output. At the same time, store the data into the database. It doesn't wait for the database to the respond. It doesn't wait for the database to the respond. So JavaScript is a bit faster compared to the server-side controller. Client-side controller, the logic implementing in the client-side controller is a bit faster, and you will see the response immediately. So that's the reason in the real time, the logic, whatever the logic you are writing in the Apex, if it is possible, try to implement in the JavaScript, right? Because it's easier. If you have a validation, some kind of a validation in the client side, so better do it at the client-side controller in the LWC. So this is the structure of the Lightning, whether you go for Aura or LWC. Let's move on to the information here. Now, Salesforce Lightning. Salesforce Lightning component. It's a component-based framework. It's a Salesforce Lightning is a component-based framework. Now, by using this Salesforce Lightning, you can build whatever the requirement, whatever the user interface is there, everything you can implement it, the application. So in order to implement, we have a 3 type of elements. One is Lightning experience. Second one is Lightning component framework. The third one is Lightning design system. Lightning experience is nothing but the UI part of it. Lightning component framework is nothing but developing the single application concept. And Lightning design system is nothing but it's a CSS styling part of it. Now in the Lightning component framework, it is divided into the Lightning component. Lightning component framework is divided into the 5 types: Lightning component, Lightning application, Lightning event, Lightning interface, Lightning token. Now this component framework you can also see in the developer console. Let's go ahead and see. If you go to the developer console, click on this developer console. In this developer console, let's close all of them. File, and if you click on this new, now you can see Lightning application, Lightning component, Lightning interface, Lightning event, Lightning tokens. So 5 type of a Lightning component framework. Lightning component frameworks are 5 types: Lightning application, Lightning component, Lightning interface, Lightning event, Lightning tokens. We will see each one of them step by step. And then finally, we have a Lightning design system. This is for the styling, designing. All the CSS can be applied into the Lightning design system. Now, coming to the Lightning component framework. Let's see the Lightning component framework. So Lightning component is nothing but right now we are going to see Aura-based framework. Aura-based framework. So Aura is basically, it's an open source. This is open source and this is third-party application. This is third-party application. It is third-party application. Now using this Lightning component, developer can build based on the requirement, they can build sophisticated user interface. Whatever the need is there, they can implement it, right? And the Lightning, like whenever you are implementing this by using the third-party application, when you are implementing the user interface, so this Aura has a kind of a bundle. It's called bundle, Lightning component bundle. Lightning component bundle. Lightning component bundle. So Lightning component bundle is a asset of all the necessary resources, like whatever you wanted to implement in the component, everything it can be, we can do it using the Lightning component bundle. Now in the real time, when we are implementing the bundle, we will make sure that this bundle, whatever the logic we are writing it, the logic has to be written in such a way that this same logic should be used in a different places. That means reusability. We can implement a component for the reusability. So once you have implemented the component, if other person is need same kind of a logic, the other person can also start using the same Lightning component. Same Lightning component. So now going to the Lightning application, the first one in the component framework, the first one which is called as a application. We have the first one which is called, we click on a new, which is called as a Lightning application. So what is this Lightning application? In this Lightning application is nothing but it's a component based framework, right? It's a component based framework for a Salesforce app development. Now using this Lightning component, Lightning application, whatever the Lightning application is there, using this Lightning application, you can call the Lightning component, or you can directly write a code into the Lightning application. Lightning application. Now I have a Lightning application. This is Lightning application. In this Lightning application, either you can call the Lightning component, or else you can write a code, specific code. You can write it your own code in the application also. Both can be possible. You can directly call the Lightning component as well. right? So let's say here, when I say Lightning component, Lightning application, what are these? So Lightning experience, like we have a Lightning experience. Everybody says that Lightning experience, right? So Lightning experience is nothing but it's a combination of Lightning component framework and Lightning application. If you are combining the Lightning application plus Lightning component framework, which is nothing but a Lightning experience. So in case if you implement Lightning experience, which is a combination of Lightning component and Lightning application, assume that I have implemented an application. When I implement an application, now same application if I implement using the Classic. Now what is the differences between the Classic and Sales? Classic and Lightning. What are the major differences between the Classic and Lightning? So if you implement Classic, so you have the UI will be the very old. It's kind of a RDBMS format. If you go for a Salesforce Lightning, your UI will be the modern UI. Look and feel will be different. And in the Classic, you do not have any graphics, right? Whereas in the Salesforce Lightning, where you will have a graphics in everywhere, right? You can click on the icons, text, everything. It's a graphical user interface. And Salesforce Classic follows the same page layout. It does not have any rich page layout. You do not have a different way to show the information in the Classic. But whereas in Lightning, you can show the frame, you can show the layout in the different layouts. You can show it on the same framework. That means Lightning supports a component framework that provides more clear insight, that displays the more flexibility. You will have a more flexibility to view this. So compared to the Classic, like a Classic, it's a less security. Like when I say security, I'm not talking about the sharing settings here. Let's say security is nothing but where we are on the UI showing the information. Right? So those are the security is a less information we are going to show. Lightning, we have a improved security. And then no mobile experience in the Classic, and Lightning is a better mobile experience. And in the Classic, it is never features or like a newer features are not available, like Einstein, AI, right? Salesforce, Sales Cloud AI, Service Cloud AI, or any GPT. It's not available in the Classic, but Lightning, it is available. All the new features you can see there. And few other key differences between the Classic and Lightning. Like if you talk about the user experience, Salesforce Classic is it's a complex. When you say here, it's a complex in the user experience with the multiple windows, multiple tabs. You have to go to the multiple places in the Classic. Whereas Lightning, it is easier. Everything in it placed into the same framework. And customization in the Classic, customization is less in the Classic, whereas Lightning customization are more. Performance, it is no performance in the Classic. Like there is kind of a performance, kind of a no such feature in the Classic. But Lightning, we have a like a data visualization features. All this will be available. Data visualization we do not have on the Classic. Whereas Lightning, we have a features that can help the visualize the data in it, whatever the way, like you wanted to see it in the graph or a chart, whatever the way you wanted to see, you can visualize your data into the Lightning. Performance, it's a performance, there's nothing called as a performance in the Classic. Lightning, it says performance is a faster because if you use that is based on the development. I cannot say faster every time based on the development. Lightning is a faster, right? So how good you are writing the program based on that, Lightning performance will be the good. So I cannot say by hardly like by default performance is a faster. Performance is based on the implementation, what are the code the developers are writing it based on that code. it will be either faster, or if you are implementing a logic to display in the based on the screen, like if the screen is a big, show me the text in the big font, or if it is a less, a screen is a smaller, then show me the text into the smaller format. So if you have implemented that kind of information, then it will be responsive. That kind of a implementation cannot be done in the classroom. And the last one is, what are the latest features are there? Einstein features, everything is available in the Lightning, but not in the classroom. Taking notes of it. Sometimes it's based on the logic how you are writing it. So if you are writing the logic directly in the JavaScript, it will not go to the server side, right? It will directly go to the database. But if you are calling the Apex in the LWC, then it will go to the server side. From the server side, it will go to the DB. But in case if you are not touching the Apex, then it will directly go to the DB. You cannot. It's very difficult, because if you do not have a main logic, how to write a main logic, it is so difficult. At least you should have a OOPS concept. The OOPS concept, everything we have learned in the Apex. Now, if you have a JavaScript knowledge, if you have a Java knowledge, then you can implement that directly in the LWC. But without any programming language, you cannot get the library LWC. At least you should have a knowledge in some. So that's the reason we are teaching in the Apex. The basics one we are teaching it.
Ma'am, I have a point here. Like when user disables JavaScript, then how this application would work? I mean, suppose if you are writing a code in the JavaScript, then the application won't work, right?
When you say disable the JavaScript means?
In the browser itself, you can disable the JavaScript, right?
So that is the, first of all, client side, nobody knows how to disable the JavaScript in the browser. If somebody has to do it, then the developer will be only doing it.
I mean, at the time, if JavaScript disables also, server side we can write the code. I mean, so the like we have to like write in the server side as well. I mean, That's what the developer point will be there. I mean, I don't know if it is only JavaScript, then my question was like an application won't run.
I have not seen disabling so far, disabling the JavaScript, because writing JavaScript for the browsers are main. If you
Hackers,
want to do anything, so JavaScript is mandatory for the browser.
yeah, ma'am. This is what I was talking about a hacker point.
See, if the hack is happening, nothing will work, especially not only the Salesforce. Whatever you are doing it in the Google doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, ma'am.
Now, Lightning component framework is LWC framework or Aura framework or HTML framework.
Aura.
Aura framework. Then moving on to the JavaScript is used for the to implement server-side controller or to implement client-side controller or to write the Apex code.
Client side.
Client-side
Client
server.
side control.
Now, what are the different type of Lightning component framework? Like, do we have a Lightning component, Lightning application, Lightning event, interface token? Or is it a Lightning component and Lightning application or nothing?
First one.
B.
B or A?
A. A.
Type of Lightning component framework. It will be A. There are 5
A.
types of available. So Lightning application, Lightning component, Lightning interface, Lightning event, Lightning token. Salesforce Lightning used for to design better user interface, data visualization, can control the look and feel, faster and more responsive, or all of them.
All of the above.
All the
All of
Above.
Let's understand the second part of it, which is nothing but a Lightning component bundle. Lightning component bundle. So what is this Lightning component bundle? So if you want to implement a Aura application, you have to implement in the Lightning component bundle. The Lightning component bundle consists of 8 resources, which is component, controller, helper, style, documentation, render, re-render, design, and SVG. Total 8 resources are there in the component bundle. So you have a Aura framework. In the Aura framework, you have a component bundle. And in the component bundle, you have 8 different type of a bundle contains 8 resources. Component, controller, helper, style, documentation, render, design, SVG. Mostly used in these 8 resources are component, controller, helper, style, and render very rarely, design very rarely, we use it. Documentation if you want to document it. Now, where can I see this 8 resources Lightning component bundle? Where can I see? So if you go to the developer console, new Lightning component, and let's say here Lightning component. New Lightning component. Click on this submit and click on this submit. File new Lightning component. Let's say new Lightning component or new LC. Here you can see the bundle. There are 8 resources are available. Now these resources are component, controller, helper, style, documentation, render, design, and SVG. Total 8 resources within the bundle. Now each resource is doing their different activities. Component is doing the different activities, controller is doing the different activities, helper is doing the different, style is doing the different. Right, so let's see the each one by one. So first we will see the component. What can we do in the Lightning component and component? So component is a necessary element. Component is a necessary element to build user interface in Lightning. Now purpose is to design the UI and program language is used, HTML, Lightning, HTML, Lightning Aura, LDS. And extensions is like Lightning component extension is .cmp. Lightning component extension is .cmp. Program language is you will use the HTML, Lightning Aura, LDS. The second one is control. Controller is in the controller, we have if you want to call the client side controller, that means if you want to call the Apex method, if you want to call the Apex method, or if you want to call the, when I say client side controller is nothing but if you want to perform it, any logic that is directly using the JavaScript, if you want to perform any logic, you can perform it in the client side controller. Right, so that means if you want to implement any JavaScript code, then you can write it into the controller. So basically controller can handle all the logics that you are writing in the JavaScript can be written in the controller. So basically if you have any client side logic, if you want to implement, then you will go for a controller. And the programming language we use it in the controller is a JavaScript. Extension for the controller is .js. .js. Parameters are parameters store static values, dynamic values, or formulas. Like you can basically this controller will call the three parameters: component, event, and helper. Now let me show you that. Now here you have a component. Component extension is .cmp. Now if you click on the controller extension is .cs. And controller will, if you want to implement any JavaScript logic, you can write a JavaScript logic here. Now here it will accept the three parameters: component, event, helper. Component, event, helper. Now if you want additional parameter, you can pass the additional parameters also. But default parameters are component, event, and helper. Next one is a helper. The third resource is helper. Now helper is basically if you want to implement or if you want to call the Apex logic. If you want to call the Apex logic, which is nothing but you are implementing something related, some logic you are implementing in Apex side and you are calling the Apex. So whenever you are calling the Apex, which is nothing but a server side controller, then mostly you will go for a helper. Now, in the real time, you might see that server side controller can be written in the helper, server side controller can be written in the controller also. It can be written in the controller also. But actually the use of the controller is to write the JavaScript, to write the client side logic. But few developers, what they will do is, sometimes they will call the Apex from the helper, sometimes they will call it from the controller. It's up to the developer. But the actual use of it is controller is for the server side, controller is for the client side, and helper is for the server side. So the extension is a .js, helper.js. And it is also used for the JavaScript. Now, if you observe, whatever the component name is there, the same component name then it will go for it. Like if I have given the component name as a new LC dot CMP, then the controller name is new LC controller dot JS. Similarly, helper is new LC helper dot JS. Helper dot JS. New LC helper dot JS. So whatever the component name is there, the component name, and then it gets attached to the, whether it is a controller or a helper or a style, the text gets attached at the end based on the resource, and then dot JavaScript. So that's about it. Now, part of the Lightning component. Now, in the Lightning component, we have 8 resources are there, right? In the bundle, we have 8 resources: component, controller, helper, style, document, render, design, and SVG, which is nothing but a scalar vector group. 8 resources are available. Now, in these resources, component is where it will accept the, like it is a extension will be the .cmp, and in the component we will use the technology which is related to the HTML, Aura, or Lightning design system, and this is used for the UI design. In the component, we only write the logic which is related to the UI design. Controller is the name of the controller is whatever the component name is there, plus the controller dot JS, the extension will be .js, and here we will write a logic. The technology that we use it here is a JavaScript, and in this controller we write a logic client side, client server, client side logic. Now helper is nothing but component name plus helper.js, and then we write a logic related to the JavaScript, and we use it for the client as well as the server side. Both the logic can be used in the helper. Sometimes error catching also we will write it into the helper. Style is whatever the component name is there, .css and CSS script. Here we use all the styling related, all the CSS, right? The border or a position, text font, everything can be handled in this style. Documentation is where we have a .aura doc, component name .aura doc, and in this case XML, HTML, Aura can be used in the documentation, and this is used for the document purpose. It's not the functionality, it is just a documenting it, it is useful. Renderer is basically what are the component name plus renderer.js. This is here also we use a JavaScript. This is basically the logic that we write it for the refreshing the component or reloading the component. For that purpose, we write a renderer. And the next we have a design. Design is nothing but what are the component name is there, dot design, and then the tools or the technology that we use is Aura, XML, and the design. In this design, basically the background design or a structure, or if you want to display the, it's like a logo or anything, the design part of it, if you want to implement it, you will go for a dot design. This is rarely used. SVG is nothing but a sector scalar vector group. The extension will be .svg, the component name .svg. And here we will write a scalar vector group SVG related logic technology we use it. It's similar like a CSS only. And this is especially for the icon shapes. If you want to use it anything, then you will use it. This is also very rarely it is used. Very rarely it is used. So these are the different components are available. Now let's understand the differences between the client side and server side. Now we are discussing, keep on discussing in the Java controller, we write a client side, in helper, we write a server side logic, right? Now let's see what is the differences between the client side and server side. Now client side is where we can process, like the process that takes the client side is basically whatever the logic you are writing it. Now, if you want the immediate, that means as soon as a user enter the data, I need to qualify or validate on the UI itself. So do not go back to the database. Just do the validation immediately there. No need of talking to the database. So if you want a on the user, like on the system or in the user interface, immediately if you want to take some kind of a validation, then we will go for a client side. Right, so that means on the user computer, if you want to perform any logic, then you will go for it. Now it requires a browser and to run the script on the client machine. Whereas server side is nothing but server side process takes the place on the web server. Like once you have and once the user has entered the data, then it should go to the server side and talk to the server side and then give the response back to the UI. Now the differences between the client side and server side is client side is does not need an interaction with the server. You do not need any interaction with the server. Whereas server side is nothing but it requires the interaction with server. Now, client side is runs on the user's computer. It runs on user's computer. Whereas server side is which runs on the web server. It goes back to the web server and talk to the web server, and then whatever the web server gives the response, it will send the response to the user's computer. And client side is because we are running the logic on the user's computer, it will reduce the load or it will reduce the performance on the server side processing unit. Every time we need to go to the web server and get the information back, right? So if we implement a client side, the logic gets runs onto the user's computer. So because of this, it will reduce the load on the server side. Now, every time you go with the server side, a lot of performance issues you might see falling every time touching the server side. Now, client side languages we use is HTML, CSS, JavaScript. In server side, we use a PHP, ASP.NET, Python, or a Apex. In Salesforce side, it is a Apex. Client side, server side is not only in the Salesforce, everywhere we have. Whether you go for a Python, ASP.NET, .NET, PHP, wherever, whichever technology you go for, everywhere we have a client side and server side. If it is a Salesforce, client side is HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Server side is a Apex, Sockle, Sourcel. We have already seen this, how to create a Lightning component, right? So this Lightning component, just click on this, your developer console, file, new, and click on the Lightning component. Then you will be able to see the name, and these are the information you can see. Now here, if you observe this part is different. It is a name and description. This is a component configurations. Now we will see this component configuration. It says optional. It says optional. If you do not check this also, nothing will happen. But there is a the logic change or there is some logic gets added to the component based on the checkbox that we will see anyway. Now in this, like a name, description is a normal, and the optional which we have a Lightning tab. Now if you check the Lightning tab, that means if you want to create a component like a tab, the navigation element in the Lightning experience, like similar to the tab, like we have an account tab, right? Now, if you want to include the Lightning component, whatever the component you are implementing it, you wanted to use it as a tab. navigation item, then you will go for a Lightning tab. Check this and click on submit. So what will happen? You will be able to see the tab in the Salesforce. Now the next one is a Lightning page. Lightning page is nothing but you are creating a component to use for the Lightning page in the app builder. Right? So this is kind of a page you are implementing. In the page, you are going to, like in the app builder, we have when you go to the Lightning app builder, in that app builder, you can implement a page, or you can add a page like a home page, record page, app page will be there, right? Similarly, you can implement it using the Lightning component. Also, you can implement a page. And the next one we have is Lightning record page. Now you can create a component to use the home page in the Lightning experience. This is a record page. Now if you want to place the component as a record, creating a record, then you will go for a Lightning record page. And next one is a experience builder site page. So this is for creating the component that is available for a drag and drop Lightning experience builder, right? So if you want to place multiple components, you can use the experience builder site. Mostly in the real time, we will go for a Lightning tab page, record page, and Lightning quick action. Quick action is like a normal buttons we have it, right, in the Lightning button. Now, if you want to implement a buttons or a actions in the record level, then you can go for a Lightning quick action. Now take a notes of it. Let me know once it is done. So let's go for it. Lightning component naming rule. Now, whenever you are creating the Lightning component, so just make sure that your Lightning components must be begin with letter. It should not be a number. And it should contain the alphanumeric or a underscore character. You cannot create with space, you cannot create it. And must be unique in the namespace. And it cannot include the white spaces, do not include the white spaces. And you should not be ending with underscore. Right? So let's say here, you should not include the white space. Let's say whenever you are creating it, like file new lightning component, now you cannot put a space here. If you put a space here, it does not accept. And if you start with new lightning component, let's say if you are ending with underscore, it does not give the proper, right? It's give me information. So it will not accept the underscore at the end. You can create an underscore and then again write it again. And it has to be always with the letter. The lightning component always should start with letter. Now in the developer console, whatever on the top you will be able to see, you have a information like this is menu bar, like whatever you see here, all the information can be here. And then this is the where you are building your application. And this side you have a sidebar. In the sidebar, all your resources will be there. Now let's create our first lightning component. Remember this, whenever you are creating the lightning component, by default, lightning component always starts with aura colon component. Aura colon component. It's a whatever the component you have it, like whenever you are creating the lightning component, whenever you are creating the aura component, it starts with aura. So it is a third party application. So that's the reason it always starts with aura colon component. Now let's say here, I'm going to simply write some text here. Hi. Salesforce aura or lightning aura. Or let's say lightning component framework. Today is first class. I'm writing simple text, but I have written in the different lines, not in the one line. Right? So I have written everything in the single line. So when I have written in the single line, what is the expectation? If I see the output, my output should be everything in the 4 lines. But how my output will be visible? Now here I have written the component. Let's assume right now I'm just going to test the component. I'm not testing the controller or helper. Now how do I test it? What are the components that we write it? How do I test my code? So in order to test the code, create a file new lightning application. Lightning application. So let's say here new LC application. Submit. Now this is new lightning application. Application will always start with aura colon application. In the application, you can see everything like a controller, helper, right? Style, documentation, render, SVG, everything you can see except the document, except the one option, which is called you do not have. Application, controller, helper, you do not. Helper, style, documentation, re-renderer, SVG. Design is not available, except the design. You have everything is available in the application. So that means you can write your own code in the application also. Write your own code in the application. Now let's assume that I wanted to test this lightning component. If I want to test this lightning component, we need to take a help of application. In the application, we need to call the lightning component. How do we call the lightning component? That means I need to invoke the component. Let's say I wanted to add a comments here. So if you want to add a comment, this is the one. This is how you need to write. So invoke lightning component. Invoke lightning component. Now this is a comment that I'm writing it. Now how do I call? Now my lightning component name is new LC. New LC. My lightning component name. But how does the application will understand I'm calling the component name. I'm calling the component name. So basically, whenever you are calling the component name, you have to use the then C colon and then new LC slash. Everything, whatever the tags you are writing it, everything should be between the less than and greater than. Everything should be less than and greater than. Now, how do you call the component? The component calling will be the invoking the component or call the component will be, you will use less than C colon and then you will specify the component name. Component name and then close this. This is the syntax. Syntax for the lightning component, calling the lightning component. Not only from the application, if you want to call it from anywhere, from another component, right? From another component also, if you want to call the another component. I have two components. This is one component, this is second component. When we have this one component and second component, I wanted to call this second component inside the first component. If I want to call the second component less than C colon, then I have to use the second component name. Whatever the component name is there, the second component name slash this. This slash is basically I'm ending it here. Less than greater than is common, similar to the HTML. Right, so we have seen in the Visual Force also similar to the Visual Force. So only the difference is C is nothing but component colon, and then I'm calling the component name and then ending the component here. If you want to call the component, whether it is from the application or from the other component, the way of calling it from the component is C colon new LC, C colon component name, and then close your bracket. Now let's save this. For application, we have a preview button, but component, we do not have a preview button. For component, we do not have a preview button, but application, we have a preview button. Now let's click on a preview. So when we click on a preview button, on top level, observe at the URL level. Now here on the URL level, whatever your base URL is there, lightning.force.com. This is base. And then it says C. C is nothing but component. We are seeing the C. I cannot increase that. So C is component. Then I have a component application name. Okay, application name. Let me copy this. So till this point, let me divide it. Till this point, we have a force.com, and then C is nothing but a component. Then this is my application name. So if I execute this, what will happen? First, it will hit the application. Within this application, what we are doing is we are calling the lightning component. Now it is going to call the lightning component. In the lightning component, whatever the text we have written, that text it will take and it will display it on the UI. It will display on the UI. display on the UI. Now, in the UI, it says, hi, learning, Lightning component framework, and today is first class. So here we have a Lightning component, today is first class. So that's the same information I can see here, right? But the text that I have written in the component is in the 4 lines. But by default, everything will be displayed in the single line. By default, it is going to display everything in the single line. Now here, how do we differentiate it? That means by default, Lightning is already everything taking it as a single paragraph. Let's assume I wanted to display it something as a, I wanted to display something as a bullet points or line by line I wanted to display. If I want to display line by line, how can I display it? How can I display that? Now let's say here, I'm going to modify this. I'll simply say here paragraph. This is HTML tag, which we have already seen in the different course. Right, so this is the paragraph, open paragraph, and then we have a closed paragraph. And then let's refresh this. Hi, learning, Lightning component, and today is a first. Let's assume we also have a HTML tag. We also have a HTML tag which says here order. So what are the order list is there? The same thing I can use it here. Right, let's say Salesforce admin. Let's say on the paragraph, Salesforce course list. And here I'm going to add a breakpoint. Adding here development. And then Aura, LWC, and integration. Make sure here star is nothing but it's still in the edit mode. So it is saved. Let's refresh. Now it is displaying in the bullet format. So the default structure is a paragraph. But if you want to make any changes to it, you need to apply the HTML tags. If you do not want to apply the HTML tags, you can also use the Lightning design system. You have a default Lightning design systems, right? So you can use Lightning design system also. How to use the Lightning design systems? Probably we'll see tomorrow. So what is server side means?
Second one.
Web server or a client or a DB?
B.
D.
Web server.
It's a web server. What are component configurations?
B. Lightning tab
B.
page, Lightning record page, experience builder site. B.
The second one is the Component configuration, Lightning tab, Lightning page, Lightning report page, experience builder site page, and quick action. And the next one is naming rule for the Lightning component creations. What are the different naming, like a
C. Angular bracket.
It should
C,
start with the
and
alphabet.
with
It should not end with the underscores. No white space allowed. It should be unique.
right. The first one is must be, it should be begin with letter and it should contain only the alpha
No.
and it contains alphanumeric. And if there is a, if you want to put a space, then
Space.
must follow the
Underscore.
underscore. And then every Lightning component name should be the unique. These three are must. And the next three are should not. It should not include the white space, which should not end with underscore, which should not contain the multiple underscores. So take a homework. Homework is in the developer console, enables. I try to play with this, whatever we have discussed. Create a Lightning component and Lightning application and see how it is working on it. And also use the menu bar to create a Lightning resources, like create a Lightning application, create a Lightning component, just create it. Don't do anything there, but just create a Lightning application, component, interface, event, token. Just observe it. What is the by default? It is giving the some code. And also use the workspace to work on the Lightning resources. Use the sidebars. What are the sidebars are there? Just play with the sidebars. What is the controller? What is the component? Helper, style, documentation, re-render, design, SVG. Try to do this. That's all for today.